Hi there, I'm Cindy Linden, and we're about to cook together something called Guiltless crackers, which is not why I make them. I make them because they're really yummy, but I guess if you look at the ingredients, you can feel pretty virtuous about what you're eating, so Guiltless crackers is what they're called. There are two do-aheads. The first is to preheat your oven to 325, and the second is to make sure you really do have everything you're going to need and set it all out, because it's an unusual list of ingredients. So here they are. You need a cup of old-fashioned oats, 3/4 of a cup of raw pumpkin seeds, which you can find in the bulk section of a lot of stores, 1/3 of a cup of raw sunflower seeds, and ditto for that. You can probably find that in the bulk section as well. You need 1/3 of a cup of sesame seeds, which you can buy, I think, in jars, but probably again in the bulk section. And then 3 tablespoons of chia seeds, and those are going to be tricky. They are probably going to be in the health food store or the health food section of your grocery store. They're probably not going to be in bulk, although they might be. They're probably going to come in a little clear plastic container is the way I usually find them. And 3 tablespoons of poppy seeds, and some kosher salt, and a little vegetable oil, and maple syrup, real maple syrup, not fake stuff. And that's all the ingredients. So I'm going to let you go compile all of those things. And when you have them ready, come on back to me. You also probably need 2 cookie sheets, because at some point we have to put these in the oven and then turn them over, which is a little tricky unless you have a second cookie sheet to do it with. And some parchment paper to make things easy to move back and forth and to roll the crackers out on. Go compile all those things and then come back to me. This is a pretty easy process, but it takes a couple of steps. So I'll talk to you again in a bit. Once you have all the dry ingredients measured out and in bowls, you can just dump them all together. They're all going into a mixing bowl together. So that's the chia seeds, the sesame seeds, the pumpkin seeds. Oh, sorry, I should have told you the oats were already in the bowl. The sunflower seeds, the poppy seeds, and here's what I didn't remember to tell you before, which is about the salt. It's a teaspoon of salt, but the recipe really needs kosher salt. Now, you might think that they're interchangeable, but they are not. Kosher salt is actually less salty than regular salt. So if you have kosher salt in the house, you want a teaspoon of it. If you don't have kosher salt in the house and you're using regular plain old table salt, cut it down to, let's say, half a teaspoon. That should be about right. And put that in there with the dry ingredients as well. And then just stir them up. Just stir it all together. And that's the basis for your cracker. So there's no flour in it. It's completely gluten-free, obviously, and it's mostly nuts and seeds and oats. Now we have to work the magic that will allow that to bind together. So in a different small bowl, you want to put 4 teaspoons of vegetable oil and 1 tablespoon of pure maple syrup. And there needs to be room for 3/4 of a cup of water. So that's how to gauge the size of your bowl. 4 teaspoons of vegetable oil. I'm using canola oil, but you can use corn oil or soybean oil or whatever moves you, whatever you have in your house, regular vegetable oil. A tablespoon of real maple syrup. I keep mine in the fridge. I'm guessing most people do. And I don't use it all that often, but I'm awfully glad to have it in there when I do need it for a recipe. Add that tablespoon of maple syrup to the oil. And add 3/4 of a cup of room temperature water. So you don't want it cold, and you don't want it hot. I guess that's self-explanatory. 3/4 of a cup of warm-ish water goes into that same bowl. 1, 2, 3. Now, what's in this bowl gets dumped into the oat mixture. And then stir up that mixture till it's all coated and soaked in the liquid. You don't want any dry parts. It won't work if you have dry parts. And then we're going to just leave it here. We're just going to leave it to sit for 20 minutes. What's going to happen is that the grains are going to absorb the liquid and the chia seeds are going to expand, which is kind of fun. And that will help create a mixture that we can actually flatten onto a cookie sheet. So go away, come back to me in about 20 minutes, and we'll put these on the cookie sheet and bake them up. Well, 20 minutes was just perfect. It's just enough time for me to go to one of my favorite local coffee shops and get an ultimate pumpkin pie latte to go. So that's just a note for next time you make this, that in that 20 minutes you could go get a cup of coffee. So here we are with all of our mixed ingredients, and they're kind of firmish now. Make it into a ball. It should do that. I mean, it doesn't have to be a real ball that you can pick up and have it not crumble, but you want it round and sort of consolidated. This is really not easy to do. And then you want to put that on your cookie sheet. Now, so line your cookie sheet with parchment paper and then hold them both together and put your cookie sheet on top of your bowl. This is probably the best way to do this. And then you're going to flip the whole shebang over so that the stuff from the bowl falls onto the parchment paper, and you can actually place it using the bowl in a sort of a round configuration. And then you have a second piece of parchment paper. You're going to put that on top. Bring it all together a little bit first, as much as you can. It's not going to stick together, just some parts of it. So don't worry, it's not supposed to. It'd be lovely if it did, but it won't. Put your second parchment paper on top. Flatten it down a little bit. And then, using a rolling pin or a glass, or your hands, I suppose, although it might take a while, you want to roll that out until it's about 1/8 of an inch thick. You might want to look at a ruler or a measuring tape or something so you can kind of get an idea of how thick it should be. Roll it out. The parchment paper is keeping your ruler from touching the crackers, dough. That's a good thing. You want that. Some of your cracker stuff is going to sort of crumble off the edge of the circle. Hopefully not off the edge of the cookie sheet or the parchment paper. We'll fix that in a minute. All right, let's see. That's probably feels a little thick in some places, but not bad. Yeah, I think I'm going to call that good to go. Now, take off the top parchment paper. Just really slowly and gently peel off that top parchment paper. If stuff starts to come off, we're going to put it back on, so no big deal. Really slowly peel that off, and then you can discard it. You're done with it. Now here's the moment when, if you have stuff that has separated itself from your circle, you can pick it up and either squish it back onto the side or pat it onto the top. And then this is going in your oven, which you preheated to 325. It's going to go in there and bake for 25 to 30 minutes. It should be a little golden brown around the edges before you take it out. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to let you do that. I was actually going to go ahead and tell you what to do next, but I think it'll be better if we do it together. So put this in your oven for 20 to 30 minutes. I'm going to go enjoy my latte. Come back to me when it's golden brown around the edges and you've taken it back out of the oven. Meanwhile, start looking for your second cookie sheet if you haven't already found one. Okay, here we are. We've taken the crackers out of the oven. Mine were in for 30 minutes. They're just a little golden brown around the edges. The center still looks kind of uncooked and feels that way too. It's not crispy or anything. And here's where the tricky part comes in. You're going to take your second cookie sheet and put it on top of your first cookie sheet. Hopefully you have flat cookie sheets. That's the only way this is going to work. I should have said that before. So put your second cookie sheet on top of your first cookie sheet. And then, just like we did with the batter, the dough, whatever it is, when we first started, we're going to flip it over. Yeah. And lose stuff all over the top of the stove. Oh well. Then take off what is now the top cookie sheet, which is the one that had the crackers on it. And take off the parchment paper. So what you are left with is just your cracker stuff on a new cookie sheet and a bunch of crumbly stuff around on your stove if you had it happen the way I did. And honestly, it happens that way every time. And the crumblies are good. They're, toasted pumpkin seeds and stuff. So you can eat those as a trail mix or something. So what you have left is just a bare cookie sheet with your dough on the top that's golden brown on the edges, but you have now a new side up. So you're going to put that back in your oven and cook it for another 15 minutes. What we're trying to do is crisp up the other side so that it's also a little golden brown, because you should have noticed when you turned it over that the bottom was a little browner than the top was. That's what we're trying to do now on the other side. You can discard your parchment paper completely. You can wait for your cookie sheet to cool, and if it didn't have a lot of stuff on it, you can actually just put it away. When it comes out, it's just going to sit and cool for a while. When it's completely cool, you can break it apart. It's not going to be squares. You're not going to get square crackers. You're going to get irregular shapes, but you're going to break it up into little cracker-sized pieces, put it in a container, and serve it up. That's the sum total of it. I think you'll like these. They are a little salty, just a tiny, tiny bit sweet, and they have all these good seed things that are now toasted and golden and quite yummy. I think you'll get a lot of comments on this when you share it with people. Again, the best way to get ready to cook this recipe is to go to the website, thecookalongpodcast.com, where you can see the ingredients, which, as I said, are a little bit unusual, and the quantities needed so that when you go to the store, you have a shopping list there. And you can also look for some spreads or dips or whatever to serve with this. I would love it if you can leave me some comments or thoughts about what happened when you made these, or if you have some better ideas about how to turn it over, I'd love to hear those too. And until next time, happy cooking!